Sometimes people don't think of motherhood as a leadership position, but I believe it was my first leadership position. And I talk about the things that I did to raise a high performing child. She graduated college at 19. And so our story is super important. And I believe there are key things that I did that I not only helped propel her in life, but also create a mother and daughter relationship where we like each other. Like I love her because she's my child, but I like the person that I raised and she likes her mother and she wants to be around me.
So Doris, this has been a long time coming. I think like several months. We both had to like reschedule and reconvene on our calendars. You are a busy and impactful woman, and we're also fellow Eastern alum, or you're still getting your degree. Is that right?
Yes, I graduate in May.
Yay! That's so awesome. It's so exciting. So I graduated last May. You're graduating next May. And it's the same organizational management. Are you taking a concentration in the program at all?
No, organizational management, the MBA.
Awesome. Very exciting. I love Eastern. They're very near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited to have that extra connector. We met on Podmatch, but you and I actually we were a part of Jeff Siegel's class, or not class, sorry, his group online for middle managers. And so I think it's just so cool that our community is so tight knit and everybody starts to get to know everyone through podcasting and through all of our great work in leadership. You're doing a lot yourself as a coach and a consultant. So, Doris, share a little bit about your background. What has led you to this journey from, as far back as you want to go to what you're working on currently? We'd love to hear it all.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I want to say that. So, what led me here? Currently, I'm a leadership coach and management consultant, and I leverage my field tested experience of being an assistant store manager, a district manager, a regional director, along with the senior director of leadership development. I take all my learnings from those past positions and really go out and support leaders and organizations and how to build high accountability, high morale environments. What I've found over my career is that I meet leaders who they know how to get the results and don't have relationships, or they know how to have great relationships and don't quite know how to hold people accountable or get great results. And so what what my secret sauce has been over the years is my ability to have great relationships with others and getting the results. So now I get to lead my own business in doing exactly that, helping leaders to create high accountability, high morale environments. So it's super exciting.
That's very exciting. And it's something that we desperately all need, no matter the type of business or the kind of team that we're working with and leading. Tell me, what's the secret to accountability? How do we get there? You have a, it's easier said than done sometimes, right? But do you have a
Yeah.
philosophy or a framework as your launching point? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have a whole framework that really breaks it down and makes it easy for leaders to get there. But what I would say is it's rooted in empathy. So when you talk about that emotional intelligence and how, our social awareness dictates how we manage relationships, is really rooted in how do you demonstrate empathy? How do you hold others accountable? Balance with how do you recognize and reward? So essentially, how do you treat people when they're doing something wrong? And how do you treat people when they're doing something right? And if you can find a way that really speaks to the heart and the motivation of the people that you're dealing with, then you strike that right balance of accountability and morale within them. And so yeah, I think that that's the secret sauce. If you really think about it, is right down to that empathy piece.
That's so important, and I feel like it's hard to train that or to coach someone there. So how do you start with someone who maybe has to exercise that muscle of empathy? Where do you begin?
Yeah, I think it really starts with self-awareness. And so that's where I begin is we help facilitate awareness. People have to know, okay, this is where I am currently. This is where I need to go. So help them to identify kind of where do they sit on that perimeter. What are the things that they're naturally intuitive to, or where do they tend to kind of miss the boat because they're not as intuitive or they don't pay attention to certain things. So I start with creating a heightened awareness within the leaders or the organization that I'm working with. And I do that through needs assessments and interviews of the key stakeholders or observations of the brand to kind of figure out, okay, how aware are they of what they're doing? Because sometimes people do a lot of things unintentionally. They just don't realize the impact of their actions.
Yeah, that's the awareness factor that I end up talking about with a lot of guests too. And if you were to ask me now at this point, having interviewed for a year now on this topic, self-awareness comes up time and time and again as that element that'll help us develop and grow. But if we don't have the self-awareness, then I can totally see how it would be very hard to develop the empathy because you don't have the awareness for where you're currently at in your journey as a manager, as a leader, and what have you. So that is definitely key. And so that readiness assessment, that is helping build that awareness with your clients because that allows them, I imagine, to just kind of get a pulse check on where they're at in current times. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's pretty accurate. And so what we sit down is and we talk about a lot of awareness. So not only self-awareness, are they do they recognize what they do, but also situational awareness. Do they recognize situations? Do they look at undertones? Can they read body language? Do they recognize that they're at the front of the room and they're given direction? But do they ask for feedback or are they looking for key indicators that they understand exactly what I'm saying or they're just nodding to get through the conversation, but really looking at their social awareness, situational awareness. But I really do a deep dive in investigating that part of things. And then I know, okay, this is where you are. And then this is what we need to build.
Are there any patterns that you have seen come through in those assessments that you started to notice in the clients and the teams you've worked with?
Yeah, there are quite a few patterns that's very, very interesting. The further away that leaders are from the frontline work, the awareness tends to be off. They believe that they understand the inner workings of the day to day. And sometimes if I'm able to bring them along and say, hey, let's spend about an hour here just observing the frontline employee, they have aha moments because they're caught up in the meetings, they're caught up in the more strategic work and sometimes they are removed from that day-to-day operations. And so really as leaders, the higher you go up, carving out that time to still get into the day-to-day operations, not necessarily to do the job, but at least to observe the work that's being done, really keeps you a little bit more present and sensitive to what your middle managers or your leaders are going through. And so that's a current thing that comes up as I'm dealing with leaders, the further they are away from day-to-day operations, the more they lose sense of what's happening, and then it impacts their empathy and the way that they lead. So then their expectations of what can be done is kind of off because they don't recognize what's happening day to day. But that's the most common pattern.
I can absolutely see that. I think I've observed that definitely.
I think there's an opportunity for leaders. Again, the way we're strategic about all other aspects is to be strategic about what type of feedback or consistent information we get, like our pulse, like our ear to the street, cross-functional team. And maybe that's a weekly or monthly meeting that you have where you bring in leaders at different levels, at different parts of your organizations to have conversations about what's happening in your business. Maybe it's a scheduled monthly visit to one of your store locations, and it could be 30 minutes observing in the operations. But what it does is it humanizes you as a leader, and then it creates that level of empathy for what your people are going through because you get to kind of experience it, even if it's at a shot. Even a little of it, you get to experience it. And what it does is it keeps you connected to the business that you're leading. But I think too often our calendars get filled, we get super preoccupied with the responsibilities, rightfully so. But we have to be considerate of what we may be exchanging or losing. Um, and not carving out the time. So I think it should be scheduled. I think it should be a part of the job. Again, maybe not daily, but weekly, monthly, even quarterly, depending on your position. I think it's important because it creates, again, the insight and the connection that you need to lead more effectively.
So if I am that leader, Doris, what are some questions that maybe I could ask to get to that point, to get to that understanding and build that into my routine, my process when I'm meeting with my middle managers, or maybe I'm a middle manager and I need to get a little bit more insight from the folks who are reporting to me, do you have any go-to questions that you like to ask or use
Yeah.
in your one-on-one meetings?
Yeah, and this may be a little cliche, but I think asking what keeps you up at night is an important question. Knowing what has them up at night that keeps them tossing and turning is so important. And it is a problem that we want to help them solve. We want to know what's causing them angst. And so, yeah, that would be my first question is, hey, what's keeping you up at night? What's holding you up at work? Like, what's the thing that you're about to get off, but you tend to not leave because you have to work on this? I want to know what keeps you at work longer, what puts you in a position that you can't put work down. I want to know those type of things. If they can't go home and be good husbands and wives and parents, what's that thing? What's the thing that is disrupting their regular life when they leave work? And I think that's my starting point. And then the opposite of that, what are the drivers? What are the things about the job that energize you? So we make sure we don't lose those, because those are the things that are making it worth it. Those are the things that are providing the balance. And we want to make sure that we protect those things at all costs. And so that's kind of where I would start. What's driving you and what's draining you?
Oh, I love that. Doris, that's really good. I love those questions. I'm gonna add them to my bank of questions to ask. Well, I like that you mentioned, while you're showing up as a leader for your family too, because, the idea of work-life balance is that we could just separate our work and our life, and yet I see life as everything that we're doing. Our work, our
Hmm.
personal life, and it's
Exactly.
all life, and how I'm quoting someone I don't even remember who, but how you show up in one aspect of that is how you are going to hopefully show up in another if you're genuine and authentic to who you are. So I could totally see that if you are stressed and if you don't have a healthy work relationship with your work, or you're being drained, like that word you used, I think that's really that's a great word rather than burnout, which can feel a little cliche. But if you're physically, mentally, emotionally drained from work, you're probably gonna carry that into your family life as well.
Definitely.
So, how do you help someone navigate that too? Or maybe the problem is actually coming from their personal life and their home life. Is there a way that we can maybe reframe it for ourselves or have a healthier approach to being able to navigate maybe some of those burdens or carry over into another?
Yeah. So part of the framework that I use with leaders, it's called high accountability, high morale in business and in life. And it talks about using the same approach both places. I believe that before COVID, we really operated under a belief system that you showed up to your job, left your luggage on the porch or, at the front door, and then you went into work and then you picked up your baggage as you were leaving. Like there was this separation that was expected out of you. And going through the COVID experience and the collective grieving, that the world experienced, it really changed how we looked at the dynamics of home and work, because it really began to emerge for us. And so that expectation has kind of fallen a little bit, and we expect people to come as their whole selves. And so I love that we're in a culture now where we're looking at home and work and how does both kind of intertwine and work together, and not really asking people to create this separate being in order to exist in each one. And so high accountability, high morale is for both. It's for at work and at home. It's for how you parent, and for how you lead in the workplace. And so it's about the same type of communication, the same level of empathy and accountability, and how you do both. And so I believe that we can apply some of those same frameworks in both places.
We're very like-minded, and you have the framework for it, which is great, Doris. When it comes to leading and everything you're sharing, it makes me just reminds me that when we are as leaders, and as a reminder to our audience, we're talking about everyone, right? Anyone that is stepping up to be a leader, you don't have to have the title, but whether we're leaders in the home or in work or both, there's a purpose to it, and we have to remember that. So does that play a part when you're coaching folks and having them figure out what's the purpose of why I'm here and why I'm showing up to help guide my team or my family?
Yeah, that's definitely a piece of it. Is it's beginning with the end in mind. And I think the more we understand our why or what we want to accomplish in this life, the easier it is to carve a path out that aligns with it. And sometimes I meet people who they just don't know. And so we go through a series of activities to help them identify, you know, what's most aligned with their spirit, like what makes them feel the best, what feels like their purpose, help them to kind of identify what they want to accomplish. And then we start with, okay, how do we align the rest of your life with that purpose or what you've identified? But I do believe that knowing your purpose, having a goal in mind, having something that you want to accomplish, thoughts of legacy. What do you want people to know or think or believe about you? Being able to identify that is important to how you set up the rest of your life, what you're involved in, what you want to impact, what your community looks like, how you parent at home. And so, yeah, the purpose part is very important. And it is a part of the work that I do, especially in my individual coaching.
I like that you mentioned the idea of legacy and what you want to be known for. It's something that I like to ask in interviews when I'm interviewing candidates for a role where I work, or even in content when we're creating content about ourselves and personally branding ourselves. How do we want to be known? What's the that reputation that we want to have and the impact that we're looking for? So I love that you mentioned that. What do you want to be known for, Doris? What's the impact that you want to have?
So what I would like to be known for, I want to be known as a leader who helped leaders to create safe, thriving environments in both home and at work. I want that to be my legacy. I think the most important part of my legacy will come from my children. I want my children to have a childhood that they don't have to go and heal from, that they feel that they grew up with a mom that loved them, that hold them accountable, and that prepared them for adulthood. So I would like to share. I have a very unique parenting experience in terms of I have a 21-year-old, so I have an adult child. I have an 18-year-old child, so a child that just launched this May, and so is entering the adult world. But I also have a middle schooler, a 12-year-old, and a 6-year-old, a first grader. And so I have the unique experience and of really experiencing parenting at all the different stages at the same time. And it requires me to be flexible and adaptable. And the biggest lesson you learn is that you can't please everyone because they're all in different stages. They all like different things. And so it's hard to make everybody happy at the same time. And so it requires me to be situational and adaptable and intentional about my actions. And so when I think about my legacy, it starts at home. I want to again raise children that don't have a childhood that they feel like they necessarily have to heal from. I want my husband to be able to speak on having a great wife. And I want the people in my community and in the work that I've done to feel like they've built stronger teams and stronger families because of the work that I've helped them with.
I love that. That is so inspirational, Doris. I love that you're applying your leadership practice in your family and with the people that you're coaching too as a good demonstration, great model of what excellent leadership can look like. So thank you for sharing all that. And you have a book out. I don't know how you do it all. A book, grad school, an awesome
Well, I
family
got
and
offered the
coaching and
full-time
consulting.
job. I left corporate to be able to do it all. I just have to say that. And so I had a big title, big position. And 3 years ago, I made the big decision to walk away from those things, to build a brand that was just in my heart and to do the things that I felt had been tugging at me, but I didn't have the time to do. And so, yeah, I published my first book last year. It's called Raising Justice. And it's literally about my first leadership position, which I believe was motherhood. And I think sometimes people don't think of motherhood as a leadership position, but I believe it was my first leadership position. And I talk about the things that I did to raise a high performing child. She graduated college at 19. And so our story is super important. And I believe there are key things that I did that I not only helped propel her in life, but also create a mother and daughter relationship where we like each other. Like I love her because she's my child, but I like the person that I raised and she likes her mother and she wants to be around me. And so I wrote a book to talk about that mother-daughter relationship. My next book, Pieces to Peace, tells the journey of my exit from corporate America. And frankly, I left in pieces. I experienced a toxic work situation. I left in pieces. And I talk about what I did to reclaim my peace. And so that's my next project that will be dropping at the end of the year. And so, but I left that environment to be able to go and do those things that my heart desired because I could never complete anything when I was working full time.
That's
Yeah.
fair, and we are all better for it because you get to coach your clients and they get the benefit of all that experience and wealth of your wisdom and knowledge and insight. And that is so awesome about your daughter and the family that you're raising and just another great testament to your leadership abilities. I absolutely agree. If, for the moms out there, definitely that is a model of leadership that we need because you're raising great people who are going to go off and be great colleagues and leaders themselves. So definitely want to give you credit for that. And I'm still in awe of you. The second book is on its way. Doris, you are incredible. So thank you so much for joining me. I want to give people an opportunity to find you online. Where would you like people to grab a copy of your book or find out about the next one? How do you like to connect with folks?
Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to share. So definitely, if you're on LinkedIn, look me up, Doris Jackson Shazier on LinkedIn. I also have my website. It's my name, dorisjacksonshazier.com. So that makes it easier. For business requests and consulting requests, my website is Shazier Coaching Consult com. And that's where you'll get to learn more about my consulting business and the team that I work with to help companies. And then also Instagram, Shazier Coaching Consult. I am there and pretty active as well. If you would like to pick up a copy of Raising Justice, it is available on Amazon. Unless you want a signed copy, which you can also get on my website, dorisjacksonshazier.com.
Awesome. So many great opportunities to connect. We'll have the links below for our audience. Doris, thank you again. This has been such a pleasure to chat with you. Finally, long time coming.
Yes.
We'll have to make it happen again, especially after graduation. I know I know we'll have a lot more to talk about and for the next book that's coming out too. And for all of you, thank you for listening to another episode of Bad Bosses Great Leaders podcast.
Thank you, Rebecca.